Well, you saw there the Queen's coffin leaving Scotland for the last time. In the last half hour, a ceremony was held at Edinburgh Airport as the Queen's coffin was carried onto the plane by a Royal Air Force bearer party and placed on the RAF aircraft in the presence of the Princess Royal. In the final moments before takeoff, the national anthem was played. The Queen's coffin is now being flown from Edinburgh and is due to land at RAF Northolt in West London this evening. Our royal correspondent Daniela Relf is at RAF Northolt for us now. Daniela.
Yes, Rita, we now know that the Queen's coffin is on its way here to RAF Northolt. It's due to land at around 10 to 7, accompanied by her daughter, Princess Anne. In what will be a week of final journeys, this will be her last to Buckingham Palace. The coffin is travelling on an RAF C-17 Globemaster. Now, just 3 months ago, the Queen was on the balcony of Buckingham Palace watching that same type of aircraft taking part in her Jubilee flypast. Today, a C-17 will bring her home. A guard of honour will be formed here by the Queen's Colour Squadron, the ceremonial unit of the RAF. A bearer party will convey the coffin from the aircraft to the state hearse. There will be a small ceremony here conducted in near silence. No music, no pomp. It is going to be a sober, quiet return to London for the Queen. The state hearse will then leave here to travel to Buckingham Palace along the A40 through the suburbs of West London, through Marble Arch, along Park Lane to Buckingham Palace, the place from where she has reigned for the past 7 decades.
Daniela, thank you. The Queen will spend her final night at Buckingham Palace before her coffin is taken tomorrow by procession from there to the Palace of Westminster. The coffin will leave Buckingham Palace at 2:22 in the afternoon. Crowds will be able to watch as the cortege makes the journey along the Mall, Horse Guards Parade and Whitehall. The procession will include the King and members of the royal family. The coffin will reach Westminster Hall at 3 o'clock for the 4 full days of lying in state. Members of the public will be able to pay their respects from 5 p.m. More details on how this will work have been announced. Our special correspondent Lucy Manning reports now on the preparations in London.
In little more than an hour, the Queen will return to her home. But it is the saddest of journeys. Back to where she lived, where she worked, where she celebrated the end of the war, where she brought up her children, held garden parties, waved to us from the balcony, addressed us in good times and bad, the focal point of her royal life and the country's.
Tomorrow, a 38-minute walk for the King and other members of the royal family behind their mother's coffin, all the way up the Mall from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Hall for the lying in state. Expectations are around 400,000 people will be able to file past the coffin, leaving some potentially disappointed.
The fear is queues of up to 30 hours. Nevertheless, Katie from Worthing plans to return.
It's no different from a concert, I guess. Lots of people are queuing big, like loads of hours for Harry Styles. So I think the Queen's a bit more important than Harry Styles, so I don't mind waiting.
Why would it be important for you to go to the lying in state?
She was roughly my age when she came to the throne, and I couldn't possibly imagine becoming Queen of a country, let alone all the Commonwealth nations, at my age. So I feel it's part of my duty to come and, support and pay my respects.
Janet from Kent is concerned.
I'm coming up Thursday, just get in a queue and hope for the best, really. So, yeah, queue as long as I can before I have to go home again. That's the biggest problem, isn't it? Can't spend all night here.
The public will be kept informed where the queue has reached and an estimate of waiting time. The lying in state opens at 5 p.m. tomorrow. There will be a coloured wristband system for different zones. Once there, people can leave the queue to sit or get food. Some venues on the route will remain open to facilitate this, and the queue could be closed early if it's clear people won't reach Westminster Hall by 6:30 a.m. on Monday.
This is the biggest challenge that TfL has ever faced. Obviously, we had the Olympics in 2012, which was itself a huge occasion, but there we knew exactly what was happening, when it was happening, and how many people were attending. This is, there are so many variables.
In the early hours of this morning, they practiced the processional route for the lying in state. This soon the sombre reality for those inside and outside the palace. Lucy Manning, BBC News.
Well, my colleague Jane Hill is outside the palace and we can join her now. Jane.
And Rita, just in the last few minutes, in fact, we've seen the King arrive back here at the palace after that visit to Northern Ireland. There were cheers, there was applause from the crowds as he was driven in through the gates of the palace, and there are still thousands of people standing here, I have to say, Rita, despite really very, very heavy rain now. But I've been watching these crowds as the rains got heavier. People are not moving. No one budged. And in fact, as the royal car was driven through, you could see a surge of umbrellas as people rushed towards the gates of the palace and tried to get another glimpse of the still new king. And then we know that tonight the King and the Queen Consort will be here in a couple of hours from now. They will welcome his mother, the late Queen, who will be brought here to Buckingham Palace for the very last time. The Queen's coffin will be greeted by a guard of honour provided by the King's Guard, and she will then be taken to the bow room in the west wing of the palace, a room that she was so familiar with, that she entertained in so many times dignitaries, celebrities. That room, named for its window that looks out over the gardens of Buckingham Palace, will be her resting place for tonight, for the last time, watched over by a rota of chaplains. Rita.
Jane, many thanks. Jane.